everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. So today is the very last of my National Book Award finalists vlogs. If you guys haven't been following along for this series, I have been reading all of the finalists for the National Book Award for fiction, and I have 2 vlogs that are already up on my channel, and I have read 3 of the finalists so far. So if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts about the ones that I've read so far, I will pop those on the screen and also in the description box down below so you guys can get caught up with where I'm at currently. But we have finally reached the point where I only have 2 finalists left to read. But before we dive into what I'm reading this week, it is officially winter here, I guess. I went to go get my brows done this morning, and as I was driving home, it started sleeting, and it was about 30 degrees outside. You know, this past week on Thursday, I took a beautiful hike outside. It was 70 degrees. I was loving it. But now it's winter. But even though I'm not excited about winter, I hope that some of these books bring some warmth and joy into my life this week. But anyways, the first book that I'm going to be reading is The Town of Babylon. And let me just read the first little bit of the synopsis of this one. So it says, when his father falls ill, Andres, a professor of public health, returns home. Reevaluating a rocky marriage in the wake of his husband's infidelity, and with little else to do, he decides to attend his 20-year high school reunion where he encounters the long-lost friends of his youth. And then it goes on to talk about some of the people that he is going to meet after going to this reunion. I am not quite at the 20-year high school reunion phase yet, but I often think when I go back to my hometown of how things are different than when I grew up. And so I'm kind of interested to see this like looking back into time, looking back at people you used to know perspective. So I'm really interested in this one. Also, this cover is really drawing me in. Now, the second book that I'll be reading, and actually probably the first book because I've already started it, is The Haunting of Haji Hotuk and Other Short Stories. So this is the only short story collection on the list this year. And so far, this has just completely blown me away. The stories that I've read so far have to do with different characters from Afghanistan, either living in America or living there, and different aspects of their culture. One of the ones that I found most interesting was the very first one about a boy who is growing up in California, and he is going to the game store to get this video game that has been released that he's been so excited for. And it actually takes place in Afghanistan around the time that his parents were there. So it's a really interesting kind of story that shows him playing the game and also what his parents went through kind of side by side. And I was completely blown away by that one. I've read a couple of other stories that have been so-so. I would say 3 out of 5 stars to the rest of them that I've read. But I'm excited to see what other stories in here are going to be favorites. All right, so I am going to get into some PJs, clean up my apartment a bit. I need to cook some dinner a little bit later on today, but overall it's just gonna be a chilled out day inside as nobody wants to be going outside today. So with that, welcome to the vlog, and I will catch up with you guys in a bit. Sunday, everybody. So today I have my first kind of holiday event of the season, and that is a Friendsgiving party. And I signed up to make pecan pie. Now, I've never made pecan pie before, like this month, but I've done a couple trial pecan pies this month and decided that I like this white chocolate one that I found, and I'll link the recipe down below. It's really hard with pecan pie to get the right amount of goop. You know, you gotta have a little bit. If it's all nuts, then it's not worth it. But if it's too goopy, then it's not even pecan pie. So with that said, I need to get this pie in the oven because I need to head out for the party pretty soon. So I thought I would bring you guys along with me for this pie baking adventure. I did get pre-made crust, which I know is a baking faux pas, but I also, the dishwasher's broken. I don't want to deal with that right now, so we're just gonna go with it. But anyways, let's get cracking because I am late already. So it's Tuesday and I'm popping in for quite the reading update because since I've talked to you last, I have finished one book and made my way through a little over half of the other book that I'm reading. But before I get into all of my updates, I had the most relaxing morning. I don't know how this worked out with my schedule, but over the next couple of weeks, I will just be working afternoons, so 12 to 6. So this morning I took a long bath. Did some reading in the bath, watched some reading vlogs, which is one of my favorite things to do. Just chill, have a nice cup of tea. It was the perfect way to start the day. I also watched another episode of Manifest, and at the Friendsgiving party I went to a couple days ago, a few people there were talking about Manifest, and I've really been on the lookout for a new drama series. Tyler and I watched The Crown together, but I don't really have one that I watch when he's not here, and I'm looking for something to like watch while I'm eating dinner. And so I saw that it was pretty popular on Netflix, and I watched the first episode, and I'm already completely hooked. If you guys have not seen it, it's about a flight that takes off and then lands 5 years in the future. And so those people on the plane go back to families that have thought that they had passed away and try and like readjust into their lives. And on top of all the interesting dynamics within that, there's also this like, how did this happen? Is it some like extraterrestrial force that made these people travel 5 years in time? So far, I'm really enjoying it, although I'm just on episode 3, so I do have quite a bit to go. But I'm sure with the next bit and having mornings off, I will be enjoying an episode of Manifest with my breakfast. So now time for the reading update. So I wanted to chat about The Haunting of Haji Hotek, which I finished this morning. Overall, I gave this one a 3 stars, which I think in some ways is a bit of a deceptive rating because there were stories in here that were 5 stars, absolutely incredible. Some of my favorite ones in the book were the first story, playing Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I really liked the second one, Return to Sender. And the last one, The Haunting of Haji Hotek. Those were my favorites. Some of the stories that I really liked actually were written in the second person, which is not something that I typically read, but was really, really interesting the way that it was used in here. However, while I did really enjoy those stories that I pointed out, some of them just didn't resonate with me as much, and I don't really know why. For some of them, I think that the author was really exploring using different form. So there's this story, Occupational Hazards, where he tells the whole story by going through all of the jobs that this person had throughout their life. So it's like from 1966 to 1980, they were a shepherd, then grade school student, and so on and so forth. And it kind of tells someone's life story through the jobs that they had. And while I thought that that was a really interesting premise, I found it really hard for me to actually follow through and be invested in the story. I just lost my way a bit with that one. And then there was another story that was told as one sentence, so there were no periods at all. And that one was Enough. And while I think it was a really cool premise for a story, I felt a little suffocated. Like as a reader, I wanted that period so that I could take a breath and kind of move on to the next bit. So those two weren't quite for me, but I could understand how somebody who liked a bit more of that form or something a bit different in their stories might really be interested in those. So this was a bit of a mixed bag for me, but I ended up giving it 3 stars. Speaking of a book that has not been a mixed bag at all is The Town of Babylon. I have been absolutely loving this one. So I have been listening to this one exclusively on audiobook, and I often do that when I'm doing a read all the books for a prize. I'll listen to one on audiobook, read one in person, and I'll usually try and be strategic about which ones I listen to on audiobook, which ones might lend themselves better to audiobooks. I thought this one, there was a lot of interesting things going on with the form, so I thought that this would be a better one to read in person. But this is a little bit more traditional in some ways. So as I said earlier in this vlog, it is about a man who goes back to his childhood hometown to his 20-year high school reunion. And I've been really, really impressed with this book so far. So it is really funny, actually. There's a lot of commentary about growing up in that time period. His family actually is from kind of a very white, like suburban neighborhood in town. And so there's a lot of commentary in there about that. Like everything happens at the Applebee's. Everybody's name is Megan. So there's some interesting little bits there. One thing that I really like that this book does so far is it kind of cuts away and tells different characters' stories. So you're not just getting this main character of Andreas as he's navigating, meeting all these people from his past. You also get at the beginning a chapter about his parents and why they decided to move to the suburbs and move away to a place where they were very much in the minority. I think so far this is really doing a good job of balancing humor as well as really interesting storytelling. It does a great job of telling the story of these characters, but also relating it to bigger themes going on at the time. So I am thoroughly enjoying this. I do have about 3 hours left, so I am hoping to finish this up as I drive to work. So anyways, I'm gonna get ready for work, and I will see you guys once I have finished The Town of Babylon. So it is now Wednesday, and it is the day of the National Book Award ceremony. I'm coming to you with my Fleetwood Mac t-shirt and this massive burn on my lip. So yesterday I was making a pasta bake and I was trying one of the noodles to see if it was done, and it was done, but clearly it was too hot to put in my mouth. So now I have this blistering burn situation on my mouth, so ignore that. But before I get into the moment you guys have all been waiting for, which is my pick to win the National Book Award, I did want to briefly wrap up my thoughts of The Town of Babylon. So overall, I ended up giving this book a 4 stars. I think it really tied together a lot of things that it was trying to do really well and told a very compelling story that kept me engaged from start to finish. There's a quote in here that I wanted to share because I think it really well encapsulates a lot of the feel of this book. And it says, "There are places in this world where people worry less intensely and with less frequency. Places where the hierarchy isn't stretched tall and people aren't perched high above their loved ones. Egalitarian places where families don't have to be self-contained battalions constantly defending against their neighbors and other strangers, but not here." And I think that that's explored in a lot of different ways in Babylon. So Andreas is from a first-generation immigrant family who moved to Babylon with this hope of the family being able to have a comfortable life, being able to live in a neighborhood and feel safe. But, you know, as their kids are growing up, they're like some of the only non-white people that are in the school. And on top of that, our main character, Andreas, is queer. And so with these different aspects of his identity, he suffers a lot while growing up. And I think he was able to reckon with some of those things in his childhood, but it wasn't until he came back to the town as an older person, having discovered a lot in his adulthood, you know, after living in the city and kind of being exposed to people that looked like him and people with a similar background. It's then that he's really able to kind of explore the parts of his childhood that maybe weren't so great, the parts of his childhood that weren't offered to the family in Babylon. And maybe they did get that 2-story house and that comfortable neighborhood, but they also missed out on a lot of things. And so I think that this book does a really great job of kind of looking at the different facets of suburbia from a interesting perspective. So I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. So with that, I have read all of the books that are finalists for the National Book Award, and if you guys have been watching the series, you probably know which one I'm going to pick already because there's only one book that received the highest rating, and that is The Town of Babylon. So this would be my pick, my preferred book to win the prize tonight. But I also did really enjoy a lot of the other books that I read. I think I got things from them. I think they got me out of my comfort zone, books that maybe I wouldn't have picked up or I wouldn't have known about if it wasn't for the book prize. And that's part of the reason that I like to do this on my channel every year. So this is the one that I think I would like to win the most. The one that I think is going to win, if I had to guess, would be All This Could Be Different by Sarah Thinkum Matthews. But It all remains to be seen. And the National Book Award ceremony will be tonight at 8 p.m. They are, I believe, streaming it online. So if you're interested in tuning in to see which book wins the prize, I certainly will be. And I will link all the information for that down below if you want to join in. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for today's video, as well as the whole National Book Award series. I will have all of the videos linked below from this series if you guys are interested in checking out the whole list. And with that, I will see you guys again very soon with another video. Bye!